The lesson today is going to be, I'm hoping it will be a one-seating message, or teaching, but if not, it will be a two-sitting. But here is what I want you to do, if you will please. Let's just get some housekeeping out of the way in terms of this teaching and where we are. The first thing that I want you to do is to be aware of some updated information just to make your facts clear. Who can tell me the name of the general who Africa was named after? Go ahead, ma'am.
General Africanus. I don't remember his first name, but I know his last name is Africanus.
Yeah, yes, so Leo Scipio. Now, the term Africanus, to my discovery, it was not his name. It was a name that was given to him. We've been taught that the name Africanus is a name that was Africa, and also was his name, and his name was given to the continents, the other way around. There was a tribe of people that go back to the times of Abraham. Abraham had children with Keturah. Out of Keturah came this particular individual who lived in the North African sector. And they were a group of people that were called the Tory tribe. This Tory tribe, they're the ones where the term Africanus comes from. And it is their name that now is the name of the continent of Africa. So I think that's important for you to understand that, so that at some point if someone know-it-all wants to challenge you, you will know this and not be made to be embarrassed. They are the descendants of Abraham and Keturah. All right, because that was his wife. And who knows who Keturah was? Who could tell me that?
She was his wife after Sarah passed away.
Correct. And of what nation?
Canaan? Was it Canaan?
She was Hamite.
Oh, Hamite.
All right, just so that we know that, all right? Okay, now we're going to go forward into the lesson. If you'll be so kind, I would like to begin, if you please, with the book of Proverbs, chapter 4. And the title of this one is, Who Was in the Garden of Eden? Who was in the Garden of Eden? Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 7, let's read.
Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting get understanding.
Read it again for me.
Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting get understanding.
So wisdom is the principal thing. So we have to make sure that as we study, we are getting wisdom. But with wisdom comes understanding. There's a whole lot of us who don't have understanding, and that's what we have to see if we can put right as we go along. From there, go to Isaiah 28, verse 9. Isaiah 28 and verse 9. When you have, let's read.
Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine?
So the question now is, whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand? In all thy getting, get understanding. Go ahead.
Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
So only those who come from a particular tribe. So this is a tribal thing. People used to make a mockery out of tribe. You're just so tribal. Yes, we are. And it should be something that you embrace, because the term tribalism is not a bad word. It means that you are tightly knit together. Go ahead.
For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little.
A friend of mine was just saying to me just the other day that a Christian apologist was challenging him to say that you just can't use the book of Isaiah 28 and verse 10 and say you're going to take one scripture and put it together here just to make right what you're saying. And he had a big argument about that. My response to him was, that's such a foolish statement, because in Christianity, when they put together a feel-good message, that's exactly what they do. So for them to now criticize us for pulling scriptures together, and yet this is the order of how we do it, precept must be upon precept, and it says it twice. And then it says line must be upon line, and it says it twice. Then it says here a little and there a little, meaning you have to pull from old and new in order for you to make right what you are saying. So it's a foolish statement when people come with that argument. And again, you will find yourself with people who will say, you're just mixing the scriptures to suit you. Yes, that's what the scriptures inform us to do. Read it from the top again, verse 10, please.
Verse 10, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little.
Amen. From here, what I want you to do, let's run back to Proverbs, please. Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 5. Now, this would explain precept upon precept. Notice we were in Proverbs. One would say, well, since you're in Proverbs, why don't you just find all the scriptures in Proverbs and just read it like that? No, because what you read in Proverbs may line up with another scripture. Therefore, you have to go there, and then you may have to come back to Proverbs. That's what we're doing. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1, if you please, and read verse 5.
Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 5. A wise man will hear and will increase learning.
And a wise man will do what?
Will hear and increase learning.
He will hear and increase learning. That's what a wise man will do. You will hear something, then you will go away and learn more about it. Read.
And a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels.
And a man of understanding will go to others who are either more learned or senior and get further understanding. This is what we do. Read it again from the top, sir.
A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels.
Let's read verse 6.
To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the word of the wise and their dark sayings.
See that? So these things are, in fact, covered by dark sayings, and we have to learn the interpretation. Now, I'm giving you this build-up because I want to make clear that when we move ahead, some of the things we're going to say is going to be, to some degree, a little bit shocking. Some things you've already heard me say in the past. Never taught it, just said it because I wanted to drop the seed into your spirit. Now we're going to cover it. From here, if you please, let's go to Psalms 78 and verse 2. Psalm 78 and verse 2. When you have it, let's read it.
Psalms chapter 78 verse 2. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old.
See that? I will utter dark sayings of old. Meaning things that were hidden from us. Things that we lost connection with. Now it's going to be uttered. In other words, spoken. So that you can get the understanding today of what once operated in in the past. Read it one more time, sir.
Psalms chapter 78 and verse 2. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old.
Read on.
Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have
Stop.
told.
Which we have heard and known. Now, watch this. Because we were once here, once upon a time, it was spoken to us. And then in the latter time that you are now back, when you hear it, it resonates with you. Why? Because you heard it. You don't know where you heard it. I didn't hear it from mom and dad. I didn't hear it from my uncle or aunt. So where's this coming from? Because deep in your spirit, you received it at a latter time, a time of antiquity. You received it back then, and now it's resonating to you today. That's why there are some things you wonder, how did I know that? It's because in your spirit, you received it once upon a time, but later on now, it's hitting you and you're wondering, how did I know that? Because it is in you. Scriptures gives us, qualifies it. Read it again, sir.
Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us.
Have told us. From here, let's go to Matthew, make it even more clearer. Matthew chapter 13, and you know where I'm going. 13 and 9. Question.
That's like that song you sing.
Say again, ma'am.
It's like that song you sing of Baruch Hashem Adonai. I come in the name of the Lord.
Baruch Hashem, Hashem Adonai.
That song, you sing it in a song.
Yes.
That's like this.
Yes.
When you sing that song, every time you sing that song, it stays with me and it sticks with me.
Yes.
I sing it for the whole week. It's like in my mind, like I've known it already.
Right, but because again, it's primarily the words are familiar with you. Baruch haba Hashem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Most High. So when we sing it, what's happening is it's resonating. It's having an effect because the words, we are connected to it. And this is why when we speak Hebrew, maybe you may be a little bit uncomfortable with it, depending on what your mindset is all about. But the truth is, it sits well with you. That's why the scripture has a saying, I think it's back in Kings, it is well with my soul. Because it comes from the Phoenician woman who came and the servant said to her, is everything well? She said, yes, it is well. Even though her son had died. And because there are some things that you have a confidence, a deep knowing. And so, yes, these things are resident in us. And verse Matthew chapter 13 and 9 will make that even more clear. Read, sir.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 9. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear.
Who hath an ear to hear, let him hear. Read on.
And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables?
Why are you speaking in parables to them? Why? Now, let me give you a preamble to that. Because even though he was speaking to all of those who were of Jewry, it is not every one of us that he's looking to reach. That's why those who go out on camp meeting have to understand you're not out there to reach everyone. There are select few that the Most High has already set up, that him, yes, her, him too, but they're few and far between that we are out there to reach. You are of the select few. So if you think everybody's going to hear this and run like you did, incorrect. You will run to this is because, again, as I said before, there is something in you that resonates with this, and when you hear it, you're connected with it. It pulls you. Brother Johnny said yesterday, he said, look, he said, if any of you drop out of this, it doesn't matter, I'm sticking with this. Is that what he said? Because this was so deeply trenched in his spirit that he can't see another way other than this. And this is what it is like. It's to reach those of you that this is for, not everybody. Now read verse 11 again. I'm sorry, 10 again, sir.
And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables?
Read.
He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given.
It is not given, so it's not given to everybody. Only some of us, and that's why you who have received it, it is an honor. Now, for those of you that receive it and turn back, he said that you are like a dog to its vomit and a pig to its wallow. Because you knew better. You got that pure word, and what you did was you took it. It's like you vomited it out, and so you were like a dog to its vomit and a pig to its wallow. All right. From there, we're going to now go into the lesson. Now, I'm going to be chopping backwards and forwards a little bit, but follow my train of thought. Let's go to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And when you're there, let's begin reading.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And the Most High Yah formed man of the dust of the ground.
So it says that the Most High formed man from what?
The dust of the ground.
Now, let's first of all understand the word dust. Dust means low estate. We've touched it before, but let's revisit it. Let's put a pin in that. Let's go to Isaiah 47 and 1, real quick. Let's read it.
Isaiah chapter 47 and verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust.
And do what?
Sit in the dust.
So to come down, to lower yourself, and sit in the dust, sit on the ground. Low estate, low level. Read, sir.
O virgin daughter of Babylon.
O virgin daughter of Babylon. From there, run, if you please, to 1 Samuel chapter 2 and 8. All right, 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 8. Let's read.
1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 8. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust.
What did he do?
He raiseth up the poor out of the dust.
He raises up the poor from the dust. So from a low level, he's going to raise you up, put you at another standard, another level. Go ahead, finish it.
And lifted up the beggar from the dunghill to set them among princes.
And to do what?
To set them among princes.
To sit them among princes. Go ahead.
And to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Most High's, and he hath set the world upon them.
So we are in the dunghill right now. We are in the place that is looked down on and considered to be completely offensive. All right, I don't want to spend time on that. Let's go to Psalms, back to Psalms again. Let's go to Psalms 103 and verse 14. Good, let's read.
Psalms chapter 103 and verse 14. For he knoweth our frame, he remembereth that we are dust.
He did what?
He remembereth that we are dust.
He knows that we are dust. He knoweth our frame because he designed us in a particular way. And it says, and he remembers that we are dust. He remembered what material, what raw matter he used to give us our clothing. Interesting, right? Let's go back to Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. So now that we've established the dust, it says the dust of the ground. I don't know if I... Second Ezra, chapter 3 and 4, I believe it is. Second Ezra 3 and 4. This one I'm not sure of, I must confess. Let's read it and see what it says.
Second Ezra chapter 3 and verse 4. O Lord, who bears rule, thou spakest at the beginning.
At the beginning, go on.
When thou didst plant the earth.
When he did what?
Plant the earth.
Read.
And that thyself alone, and commandest the people.
And commandest the people. Now, first of all, let's understand. It said what did he plant?
Planted the earth.
Plant the earth. So we're talking about the global system now. First of all, remember, the earth, its original name is Idon. Idon is where we get the word Eden. When he returns, it will be called what it was once designated to be called. Idon. That's what the earth is called. Right now, man has chosen to change it because that's what the book of Daniel tells us that he was going to do. But it will go back to its original theme. Then when we read on, it says, read.
And gavest a body unto Adam without...
And did what?
Gavest a body unto Adam.
Read.
Without soul.
Without soul. So Adam was just a body without the laws. He had nothing to keep him correct, so he gave him a body without the laws. Read.
Which was the workmanship of thine hands.
Which he formed on a personal level. Meaning had a personal investment in this. Read.
And didst breathe into him the breath of life, and he was made a living before thee.
Made living before thee. So let's understand a couple of things. First of all, Adam is what we would call a prototype Israel. So if you're making notes, that would be a good place to... he's a prototype Israel. All right? So, read on a little bit more, if you please.
And thou leddest him into paradise.
And put him what?
Paradise.
Now, paradise that he put him in is a place that allows it, that's called the garden. All right? Now, let's understand that. We'll come back to it again, but I just want to touch it whilst we're there. It's called the Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent. Today, in the modern English term, it's called the Middle East. But it's really called the Fertile Crescent. Read that verse again, sir.
And thou leddest him into paradise, which thy right hand had planted, before ever the earth came forward.
So his power had planted this. Read.
And unto him thou gavest commandment to love thy way.
So the Most High gave him the commandments. All the other nations were there, but he gave him the commandments. Read.
Which he transgressed.
Which he transgressed. Now later we'll see how he transgressed. But go on.
And immediately thou appointest death in him and in his generations.
So, find that scripture for me, please, where it says, because you did not experience judgment now, that's why you think, you got it, thank you. So, and this is what causes many of us to now think that because we don't drop dead immediately when we don't do certain things, we think, there's no God. I've been hearing this since I was a child, I'm an old man now, it makes no sense. It's because you're foolish. That's where the word fool truly is applicable. All right, let's read.
Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse
one.
11. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil.
Because you're not being punished right away. And because you're not being punished right away, you think you can get away with it. You can get away with doing what you want to do and saying what you want to say. You're not getting away with it. The scripture tells us that the Most High, he's long suffering. He suffers long. And what he does, he waits for an appropriate time, and then he puts that punishment on you, and then you're going to suffer. You're going to go through it. You're going to, why is this happening to me? And the reason why you won't remember, because you don't remember the actions that you took before, you acted out before. But he puts it all on you, and it will either wipe you out or it will bring you to a low estate, bring you down to dust. You seen that? You will always be going back to the dust, especially in this life. All right, so let's go back and let's finish reading what we're reading back in 2 Ezra chapter 3, I think with verse 7. Let's read verse 7 through to verse 8.
Verse 7, and unto him thou gavest commandment to love thy way, which he transgressed, and immediately thou appointest death in him and in his generations, of whom came...
Now the generations mean all of his gene line. That's where the word generation comes from. So we come from his gene line, because we were the prototype who became the type. Adam was the prototype. We became the type. You with me so far?
Yes, sir.
So we became the thing that was already in Adam to be brought out of him. Go ahead.
And in his generations, of whom came nations, tribes, people, and kindreds out of number.
Read.
And every people walked after their own will, and did wonderful things before thee, and despised thy commandments.
Despise the commandments. All right, from there, let's go back to Genesis chapter 2. And notice we're still on verse 7. We haven't left it yet. Let's read it again.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And the Most High Yah formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life.
Breathe into his nostril what?
The breath of life.
The breath of life. So 3 things are happening here. One, we're looking at the dust, which is the ground. So that depicts and explains color. So if anyone has a problem with color, dust or dirt or ground is what color? I mean, look outside, you see the dirt. What color is it? Talk to me.
Dark black.
Yeah, dark black, brown. Dark brown, black. Now, as any of you in your life ever come across, and I'm being nice when I say that, Caucasian dirt? The closest I came to that was something they call it chalk. That was good for nothing, by the way. All right. So then, when we go back to this now, it tells us that then it says, and breathed into his what?
Nostrils. The breath of life.
The breath of life. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 and 22. Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 22. Reads it.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 and verse 22. For wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me.
Wisdom is what?
For wisdom, which is the worker of all things.
Worker of all things did what?
Taught me.
Taught me. Go ahead.
For in her is an understanding spirit.
So there's an understanding spirit that comes from wisdom. Go ahead.
Holy, one only, manifold, subtle, lively, clear, undefiled, plain, not subject to hurt.
What?
Not subject to hurt.
Okay, go on.
Loving the things that is good.
Loving the things that are what?
Good.
Good.
Quick, which cannot be led. Ready to do good.
Ready to do what?
Ready to do good.
It's ready to do good. So it makes it very clear that this is the breath of life. For wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me, for in her is understanding spirit. Jump to verse 25. Read, sir.
Verse 25. For she is the breath of the power of Yah.
So she's the breath of the power of the Most High. So when it breathes into us, it empowers us. Read.
And a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty.
And we are influenced by. So it is him who is influencing us. All right, good. Let's go back, if you please. So in this one verse, you see there are three parts of man being displayed here. The mind, the body, and the spirit. In this one verse, those three things are in this one verse. Cannot miss it. The mind, the body, and the spirit. Since we're there, go back to the Apocrypha, Baruch 4 and 1. Baruch 4 and 1. When you have it, read us, read.
Baruch chapter 4 and verse 1. This is the book of the commandments of Yah.
It's what?
The book of the commandments of Yah.
Read.
And the law that endureth forever.
The law does what?
Endureth forever.
It endureth forever. Read.
All they that keep it shall come to life.
So what?
Come to life.
Come to life. Read.
But such as leave it shall die.
There it is. There it is. That's powerful. So again, we haven't even left chapter 2 and verse 7 yet. And what I'm trying to show you is that often we read through it. I remember when I was in a Christian church, we read through this and so we took it as nothing. We just took it for, this is what it said, it's okay. But here there's much more to it than that. In fact, Songs of Solomon 1 and 1. Let's hit that.
Songs of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 1.
Because I want to confirm that ground, that dust of the ground thing. Go ahead.
The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine.
Love is better than wine. I think it's verse 5 we need to jump to.
Yes, sir. Verse 5. I am black.
I am what?
I am black.
Read.
But comely.
So here we find it said, black is beautiful. Back in the 60s and 70s, that used to be a theme saying that we used to say a lot. Did you say it over here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder why we stopped saying it. Thank you so much, man. Black is beautiful, but are we learning that black is beautiful today? No. We don't say it like we used to. We used to say it with pride before. But we're not now too busy wanting to okay. We want to look like Edom now.
Boy.
We had some pride before. But anyway, all right. Let's keep my political. All right. So back to Genesis, if you please. So let's understand a few things. So here we are in Genesis chapter 2 and 7. We understand now that the earth is called Idon, which is Eden. To make that a little bit more clear, go to Job chapter 9 and 7 so that we can get some further clarity there. Thank you. Let's go.
Job chapter 9 and verse 7. Which commandeth the sun, and it riseth not.
It did what?
And riseth not.
It commanded the sun, and it rises not. Go on.
And sealeth up the stars.
And did what?
Sealeth up the stars.
Sealeth up the stars. All right. Go on.
Which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea.
I'm sorry. It did what?
Which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea.
Hold on. Are we reading the same thing? Let's read it from the top again. Let's read verse 7 again.
Verse 7. Which commandeth the sun, and it riseth not.
And it rises not. Read.
And sealeth up the stars. Which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea.
So then it uses the word the waves of the seas. Remember we learned that in Dark Sayings earlier on when we read in Psalms. But here is what we need to understand, is that the terminology here, sea, is speaking about the sea that's in the heaven. So what we call space, there's a sea out there. Now, not a sea as how we understand the sea here on earth. When we say sea here, we're talking about the gathering of a mass of water in one place, right? That's what basically a sea means. But in the heavenlies now, the sea is there because it's a watery atmosphere. Now, I've never been out there, but according to Job, what makes the book of Job such an impacting book is because he gives detail. Why? The Most High showed him these things. And then when you study some of the, like John, they call him John the Divine, he showed them these things. He showed them that in the space that we call, it's really a watery heaven. Because everything out there, there is water out there. Because it is so cold. And where there's cold, there's what? There's water, right? Condensation of time. So, it tells us that there's a sea out there. The heavens is a sea. Now let's read on the next verse.
Which maketh Arcturus, Orion.
Which makes what?
Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south.
Chambers of the south. So Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. Now let's go to let's run to 2 Ezra chapter 6. Let's begin to make sense of that. 2 Ezra chapter 6 and 45. When you have it, let's read.
2 Ezra chapter 6 and verse 45. Upon the fourth day thou commandest that the sun should shine, and the moon give her light. And
moon does what?
And the moon give her light.
Read.
And the stars should be in order.
So the stars should be in order. Read.
And gavest them a charge to do service unto man that was to be made.
So man was not yet made, but he said he gave them a charge to do service unto man that was to be made. So these elements, these hosts were instructed, you'll be made for this particular creation that I have in mind. And your whole duty is to serve them. Read it again, sir.
Upon the fourth day thou commandest that the sun should shine, and the moon give her light, and the stars should be in order, and gavest them a charge to do service unto man that was to be made.
See? They know what they have to do for us. We're the only ignorant blank page in the room now who doesn't know what we're meant to be doing, because we've allowed ourselves to lose our heritage. You see, here's the thing. Much of what we've been told before about some of the things that we've been indulging in it's really been tarnished, because some things he made for us and us alone, not for everybody, but for those who it wasn't made for. What did they do? They began to poison it and to use it for other things. We'll prove that later. But here now, when we're looking at this, let's read the next verse, if you please.
Upon the fifth day thou saidst unto the seventh part, where the waters were gathered, that it should...
very important part. Upon the fifth day thou saidest unto the seventh part, what does it say?
Where the waters were gathered.
Where the waters were gathered. Go ahead.
That it should bring forth living creatures, fowls and fishes, and so it came to pass.
So it came to pass. Read on.
For the dumb water and without life.
For the dumb water, meaning it cannot speak. Read.
For the dumb water and without life brought forth living things at the commandment of Yah.
Because once the commandment was given, however it had to happen, it had to form it and make it, and it had to bring forth life. All man came out of the waters. That's what ties into Genesis chapter 1 and 20, I think it is. Let's go back there real quick. 1 and yes, it is 1 and 20. Let's read it.
Genesis chapter 1 and verse 20. And Yah said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life.
That has what?
That hath life.
That has life. Read.
And the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven.
And you see, now that then ties back in. Let's go back just for a quick minute to Job chapter 30. Job 38 and 7.
Job chapter 38 and verse 7. When the morning stars sang together.
When the morning stars sang together. Now you've got to read this very slowly, otherwise we miss it. There's a lot of meat in there. Read.
When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of Yah shouted for joy.
So the sons of Yah was there too, but we were in spirit form. Read it again, if you please.
When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of Yah shouted for joy.
Shouted for joy. Read.
Or who shut up the sea.
Who did what?
Who shut up the sea with doors.
With doors. Read.
When it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the womb.
So it's like a womb then. It brought forth life like a woman. And when a woman brings forth a child, what happens before the child comes? Water is broken. So again, remember what we read in the beginning. It said that this mystery is given to us. That's why they can't get it. Now they've stupefied us so that we think that we don't know what this is. And we really go, oh, well, this is telling us that we need to be rich and jump up and down and shout and run in church and turn around some chairs and tables and so on. That's not what it's about. It's about making us know the truth. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall what? Make you free. All right, let's run back, if you please, to 2nd Ezra, chapter 6. I believe we stopped at verse 49. Let's read.
2nd Ezra, chapter 6 and verse 49. Then didst thou ordain 2 living creatures, the one thou callest Enoch, and the other Leviathan.
Leviathan. One deals with intelligence. The Enochs deals with the intelligentsia, those who have a mind, have a soul. Remember, all creatures have a soul, but our soul differ because of an order of supremacy. The Leviathan is the sea creatures of different types, great and small, whereas Enoch deals with the intelligence, the thing that is upwardly mobile. Read.
And did separate thee one from the other, for the 7th part, namely, where the water was gathered together, might not hold them both.
Right. So he created adequate space so one could have a habitat and another could have an habitat, and they could coexist without one invading the other. But he gave one, which is the Enoch, the superiorship that he could go onto the 7th part of the Leviathan, to do as he chose, because he was given the right to have dominion. All right, so I hope this is making sense. You're getting it so far. All right. All right, so let's go from here. Let's go to Job 31. Job 31, we're going to read verse 26. Question, go ahead.
Well, earlier it said Adam, and now it's using an Enoch.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I'm up.
Okay. The term Enoch it's a terminology that really, it simplifies to say, today we would say there is mankind, which is more the human species, and then we say that the animal kind, which falls into several different categories. So the human species we know because it's been clearly identified as more human, because the word human simply, it comes from the word humus. Humus, the word, it deals with soil,
Right.
dirt. And then to put the word man to it, meaning man made from soil. Whereas the animal life, there are again a different group because there are several different groups of them, from sea to sky to land, because they fall into three different types. So the word Enoch was to describe that. That's what the word Enoch was to describe, like we would say human. So that's what it was used for. Leviathan, on the other hand, covers a wide spectrum, because remember, they're different species. And if we go back to what they call prehistoric age, which the truth is, there's no such thing, meaning that at that time he made great leviathans. And he also made behemoth, because these creatures, he had a plan for them to create certain resources in their early stages of creation that would bring a where we get oil today, because the oil is created from their skin and their bones under certain pressure. So he made all those things to supply us, because remember, we read it earlier on, when he made the sun and he made the moon and he made all he said that he told them, I'm making you for the creation I'm about to make.
So Adam, we derive from Adam.
We derive from Adam.
And then you seek Enoch and the Leviathan.
No, Enoch, Adam comes from the Enoch.
Adam comes from Enoch.
They all come from that. All mankind comes from that. Because the word Enoch simply just means we have intelligence. That's all it basically means. Whereas Leviathan, it can be used in a spiritual context, because there's a term, there's a word, not double indemnity, what is it? It'll come to me in a moment, but there's a term that's used that a word can have more than one meaning. A double entendre, that was what I wanted. It can have more than one meaning. It can mean one thing, yet mean another thing, and then mean another thing still. But they're all deriving from the one word. All right? I'm going to make that a little bit clearer as we go along as well for you. Yes, question?
Why then is the Leviathan referred later as the evil spirit?
Why is
The Leviathan referred as the evil spirit?
Well, it can be used as that because of its size. Because the thing that a spirit does, it's meant to overtake you, meant to overwhelm you. So that's what that's referring to, something that has the ability to overtake you. That's why a person will turn and say, I don't know why I did that. It's because you allowed it to overtake you. That's what it does. It's a spirit. All right? Okay. Job 31, is that what I said?
Yes, sir.
All right. Begin at verse 26, and we'll go through. Go ahead.
Job chapter 31 and verse 26. If I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness.
So it uses the term, the moon walking. The moon doesn't have legs. But the reason why it uses it because the moon moves. So it moves from one place to another place. The moon and the sun, they communicate with each other. That's why the moon will not move until the sun is ready to go down. And the sun will not come up until the moon has finished its time. So they communicate with each other. That's why you'll read sometime through the scripture, he says, man who who act so foolish and won't even talk to each other. And we yet have more intelligence, as I just mentioned. And the sea does exactly what the sea is meant to do, because the sea is controlled by the moon. And watch what the Lord Most High calls the sea. He says the dumb waters. Yet the dumb waters will never do anything that is told not to do. But if it's told that, right, I want you to turn it into a tsunami, it will be obedient and turn it into a 200-foot wave and wipe out whatever it needs to wipe out. Because it was told to do it. Yet we are told, serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind. We won't do it. And yet we're meant to be intelligent. And that's what the scripture is trying to show us. That, read 26 again, please, sir.
If I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness,
Read.
and my heart had been secretly enticed,
See, secretly enticed. Read.
or my mouth had kissed my hand.
Kiss my hand. Meaning that we look at these things and first we think, let's make it a God. That's what we've done. Oh, the sun is so bright. Let's make it a God. That's what we've done. That's why you'll find through the Egyptians, they have things like Ra and all those things, sun gods. And even the term that they use today, Isis, they're all pertaining to a sun god. All right. So then, from there, let's read verse 38. No, in fact, let's go to chapter 38, and let's read chapter 38 and read 31.
Job chapter 38 and verse 31. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth?
Now, the reason why, I want us to go there is because Pleiades, these are places that remind us, if you were to check it out, of the different astrology signs that they use today. Because Pleiades means today Taurus. Got that? Taurus. Make a note of that. And it really means, at its core, it means the brightest constellation. That's what it means. Then it uses the word Orion. It says, or loose the bands of Orion. Now, Orion is its own constellation. And the beauty about Orion is that in history, it is the original constellation that was used for idolatry in terms of worship. When you go back into the annals of history, you will hear the term Orion used because it was used, the man looked upon it from the earth and began to worship it. This, by the way, was from the beginning. The beginning where? What beginning, Pastor Thompson? Genesis. Are you telling me then that they were worshiping Orion and Taurus and Pleiades back in that? Yes. Okay, let's go, if you please, to Revelations 22. But before we do that, where were we? Let's just finish read verse 32 because we didn't finish that. Canst thou bring?
Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth
good.
in his season, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons?
See, Arcturus with his son, and you can see where the word Taurus comes from. All right, from there. In fact, read on a little bit more.
Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth?
Read.
Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that abundance of waters may cover thee?
So it's letting us know that the abundance of waters are hidden in the clouds. Go on.
Canst thou send lightnings that they may go and say unto thee, Here we are?
Here we are. Because again, lightning is a tool used by the Most High. We don't see it like that because we have lived in a world that has taught us to take everything we see for granted. Yet when you see lightning, you are meant to understand that the Most High is at work. And the angels that he has created, they are carrying out their work. But you see lightning and you go, oh, lightning. But lightning is to let you know what's going on. This is why in the new millennium, in the kingdom age, we will be able to see lightning, and lightning will give us a message. We will know what it means. Right now we don't, because again we take it for granted. All these things we take for granted are going to be things that will be signs to us to let us know what's about to happen, or what's the condition of Edom, or Idon, the earth. It tells us, it's speaking to us. But these mysteries are hidden from the world, but they're given to us. All right, let's go to Revelations, if you please. 22:1. Let's read.
Revelation chapter 22 and verse 1. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Yah and of the Lamb.
So he showed him what? A pure river of what?
A pure river of water of life.
Read.
Clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Yah and of the Lamb.
Okay, that now has a double connotation, because it's dealing with the fact that it covers, it's meant to be in terms of the cleaning up of the nation, because water also means people. All right, read from here. Read on a little bit more, please.
In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life.
Was what?
There the tree of life.
The tree of life. Go on.
Which bare 12 manner of fruits.
12 manner of fruits. The 12 manner of fruits is who? 12 tribes. Read on.
And yielded her fruit every month.
And yielded her fruit every month, meaning what? Yeah, exactly. Reproduce life. Go on.
And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
And the leaves represent what? What does it represent?
The knowledge?
Say again?
Knowledge?
Yes. Doctrine, teaching. The leaves represent teaching. Continue.
And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Yah and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him.
Shall serve him. All right, from here, go back, if you please. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1 and 1 real quick. Let's read.
Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. In the beginning, Yah created the heaven and the earth.
And the earth. Go on.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
The earth was without form and void. Okay, it was empty. Go ahead.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Yah moved upon the face of the waters.
So the Spirit of the Most High moved upon the face of the waters. Let's jump to chapter 3 and 2 real quick.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yah hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Okay, all right. Keep that thought in mind. Keep that thought in mind. Now let's run back to Revelation chapter 10 and 9. Revelation chapter 10 and 9. Are you there? Let's read.
Revelation chapter 10 and verse 9. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey.
It shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. All right, let's explain that real quick because of time. I would normally ask you what does it mean. No. Let me ask you, what does it mean? What does it mean? Revelations chapter 10 and 9. That ties in with, go back and read Genesis chapter 3 and 2.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yah hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Right, okay. So, he's telling us, and the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden. All right. It ties in with what we just read, Revelations 10 and 9.
So is it dealing with philosophy?
So again?
Philosophy? The doctrine of man?
Yes, it does. But for time purposes, let me give the answer to Revelation chapter 10 and 9. When he ate it, it was sweet in his mouth. But when it went to his stomach, it became bitter. Meaning that the sweetness that he was tasting was all of the wonderful things that the Father was going to prepare for us to enjoy. That we will have a wonderful existence for our future. But when it got to his belly, the bitterness described the fact that what he saw that we would have to go through to get to that sweetness. Meaning, there's going to be destruction, dispersion, raping, castrating, pillaging, homosexuality. All of those things are going to happen to our people to spoil us and destroy us. And that made his stomach, turned his stomach. Because that's what he saw. When he read the book, he saw the sweetness of it first, and then later on he saw, or experienced, I should say, the bitterness of what would happen to us. So that's what all that is about. Is that clear to everyone? Good. All right. Now from there, what I want us to do, let's jump back. Let's go to Proverbs 25 and 16. Proverbs 25 and 16, let's read.
Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 16. Hast thou found honey?
Hast thou found what?
Honey?
Read.
Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomited.
See that? So that kind of ties in with what you have just read. Hast thou found honey? Again, that just ties right into Revelation chapter 10 and 9. From there, what I want you to do is, let's go back to Genesis chapter, let's read Revelations again, because I need you to know what it is, Revelations 10 and 9. Read it so that you know what it's applied to.
Revelations chapter 10 and verse 9.
Read.
And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey.
Sweet as honey, all right? From there, let's go to Genesis chapter 3 and 3. All right, let's read.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 3. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yah hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Let's see what?
Lest ye die.
Read on.
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for Yah doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
So, you will know, you will be as gods, knowing good and evil. What tree is this that he's speaking about not eating?
Philosophy of man.
What tree is it? What is it? What does the Bible say the tree's called? We all are reading the same book, right?
Tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Good. And the reason why I want you to understand that and be clear is because it's one tree. And remember, the scriptures explains that trees can be literal and trees can be also something else, right? They can be literal trees, they can be spiritual, or they can be a person. Got that? Because we said it's like a double entendre, right? So here we are looking at that. Is it spiritual? Is it a person? Or is it, what's the third one?
Literal.
Literal. All right. So, the tree of good and evil, what is it? Everybody, brothers included, what is it?
Spiritual.
Is it spiritual? Well, no, it's not spiritual because it is real. It is right there. Everybody sees it.
It's a person. It's a person. Then. It's literal knowledge, lust, philosophy.
All right. Anyone, come on.
The knowledge of good and evil, wouldn't
What does that mean?
there be the law? The law talks about
No.
tells us what's good and what's evil.
No, it's not the law, because the law was breathed, was breath that comes from Most High. So, the tree, good and evil, meaning it's one tree. But here is what I want you to understand. It isn't, but here is what I want you to get. It's good and it's evil, meaning, depending on where your spirit is, if you partake of this, if your spirit is wrong, it's going to be for evil. If your spirit is right, it's going to be for good. That's why it says the spirit of good and evil, meaning then that this tree is there, and if your spirit is right, when I partake of this tree, only the good will come to me from this tree. If my spirit is wrong, when I partake of this particular tree, everything that I'm drawing from it is going to be evil. That's why there is a right hand and a left hand. With me so far? And it's set up this way because not everybody is going to get the same result, because it depends on who you are. There were others in the garden and they partook of the tree, and guess what? Evil came to them. All right, let's see if we can prove that to some degree. Let's read on, sir, and let's stop at verse 7.
Verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes.
You see that? She saw that it was good for food and pleasant for the eyes.
And a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat.
Now, is this tree a real tree, or is this tree a person? I've been flinging some things up. So sorry?
This tree is a person.
Thank you. Now, good for food. Let's read that again, if you please.
And a tree, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise.
To make one what?
To make one wise.
All right, stop there. Go back and read verse 5 again.
Verse 5. For Yah doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
All right, Surah 25 and 24. Let's run there. Let's read.
Surah chapter 25 and verse 24. Of the woman came the beginning of sin.
What?
Of the woman came the beginning of sin.
Read.
And through her we all die.
Through her we all die. Go back, read verse 6, Genesis chapter 3 and 6.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat.
So all of the things that engages with a woman, beauty, it was pleasant to the eyes, beauty, it was good for food, knowledge. What else does it say? Desire to make one wise, desire. And then it says what? Desire to make one wise, she what?
Took of the fruit
She
thereof
took the fruit thereof, read,
and did eat.
and did eat. She allowed the left-hand side of this fruit to affect her. Now remember, her spirit was wrong. Remember I said it depends on where your spirit is?
Yes.
If your spirit was right, it would never have affected you that way. But she took of it and affected her spirit, and then what did it say?
And gave also unto her husband.
Now she came to her husband, and she gave to her husband so that he would have some. Come on, honey, you need to take some of this. Come and learn what I've learned. What was wrong with this picture?
She was out of order.
Say again?
She was out of order.
She was out of order because she was doing what? Leading and teaching her husband. She was teaching her husband. She was not supposed to do that. Now, in this women's live age, it would be looked at, well, what? Maybe she knew something that he didn't know. By the way, I've had that type of spirit in my audience in the past. And I've just had to tell that devil to get thee behind me. I've had that before. Because that's a spirit that has no humility in it. And so, let's read verse 7. Read.
And the eyes of them both were open.
The eyes of them both were open. Read.
And they knew that they were naked.
And they knew they were naked. Now, they weren't naked literally. So all this picture you see of Roman Catholic Church showing these two Caucasian people, you know, with this demure face and rosy cheeks, leaning their head to the side and holding them, covering up their privates and looking like they're glorious creatures, cherubims. No, it's none of that. It's none of that. They had clothes. They were clothed. All of the people were clothed. They were naked because they had been stripped from. All right, they've been stripped from what was given to them in chapter 1 of verse 7. Chapter 1, verse 7. Read it again for me, please.
Genesis chapter 1 and verse 7. And Yah made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so.
I'm sorry, is it chapter 1? My error, sir. You're not at fault. Chapter 2 and verse 7.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. And the Most High Yah formed man of the dust of the ground.
Read.
And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
So the breath of life, and we got the answer to that from Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 22 and verse 25. That's where we got our answer from. So they'd be stripped from the very thing that was given to them to make them wise. Got that? Make sense to you so far? All right. All right. Let's see if we can move forward a little bit. All right. Because of time, I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. All right. So let's go back, just jump, and remember, I didn't warn you we'd go backwards and forwards a little bit. Let's go back to chapter 3 and verse 3. Let's read.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 3. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yah hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
So, this fruit of the tree was a doctrine that was in the midst of them. And what we must also bear in mind is that in this particular place, two rivers there were, how many rivers, by the way, was it that run through? It's not two. How many rivers? 4 rivers. But 2 particular rivers run on either side of this particular place. So, just go back with me. What rivers are they? If it's called the Fertile Crescent, it's called now in the Middle East. What rivers run on either side of them? The Nile and the Euphrates. Those are the 2 rivers. And as we said, that Adam was a prototype of Israel. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the Canaanites existed also in that time, and they were in that sector called the Fertile Crescent. Well, they were kind of on the boundaries, I would better describe. But they wanted to have more. So let's look at it. You are in your place of promise. There's another group that looks at what you have, wants what you have. So what would you do? Take it by force, or to do what? If you knew, what is the thing that all of the nations knew we had to abide by, and if we opted out of it, what would happen to us? Our laws and covenant. They knew if they could get us to fall out of our laws, they knew that the Father would step away from us and we would become prey to them, right? This is what the nations were doing even back then. So then to maybe move this a little bit forward, let's jump from verse 3, let's jump down to verse 14. We'll come back up in just a moment.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 14. And the Most High Yah said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle.
So you are cursed above all cattle. Now, do you want to underline that? We'll come back there. You're cursed above all cattle. Now, let's go back to verse 7.
Verse 7. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked.
They knew that they were naked. Revelation chapter 3 and 18. Let's run there. Let's read.
Revelations chapter 3 and 18, verse 18. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that thy shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with the eye salve, that thou mayest see.
You see that? So it's making it very clear as to what goes on. What verse did you just read?
18.
18. Jump back and read 17, please.
Verse 17. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods.
That's it. That's it. Go ahead. Go on.
And have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see.
All right. From there, let's get a precept for that. 2 Chronicles, chapter 28 and 19. Let's read.
2 Chronicles, chapter 28 and verse 19. For the Most High brought Judah low because of Ahaz, king of Israel.
He did what?
Brought Judah low because of Ahaz, king of Israel.
So brought him to a lower state. Read on.
For he made Judah naked.
Made him what?
Naked.
There we are. Are you seeing now? That being brought low is being naked. as well. All right, now let's go back to Genesis chapter 3 and 7 again. Let's read it.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 7. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
So they sewed fig leaves together. The fig leaves that they sewed together was what does the fig leaves mean? What does it mean? Because I nearly gave it away. We read it earlier on. We read it back in Revelations chapter 20, 21, 22, 22.
Oh, 22 and 2.
Let's read.
Revelation chapter 22 and verse 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
For the healing of the nations. So the leaves represent a teaching, a doctrine, right? So then for it to represent a doctrine, we have to go back now and say, what were they covering themselves up with?
False doctrine.
Idolatry.
They were covering themselves up with a false doctrine. They hid themselves among the nations, and they took their leaves, their doctrine, and covered themselves up with it. So they allowed themselves to get lost in them. This is why Adam was held culpable, because Adam had the right to just to slay Eve. Because she broke the law, he could have killed her, and the Most High would have left him free to go and find another wife. But what did he do? He took her, and they ran to the other nations and hid themselves among them, and made themselves what? Aprons. Is that what we're reading there?
Yes, sir.
Hid themselves among the nations. Read verse 8 for me, please.
Verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Most High Yah walking in the garden in the cool of the day.
Doing what?
Walking in the garden in the cool of the day.
Now, many of us believe that was his voice echoing through the garden. That's what you're taught in Christianity. This is some of the other brothers, same Adamites, who the Spirit of the Lord was upon them, and they came and they were calling him out. They were calling him out. What have you done? Why have you brought us this way? Because he's the leader, remember. Now, some of us don't really fully understand that. I think I need to give some proof. Bear with me just one moment, please, because I said not very straightforwardly. Go to Isaiah. Let me go there just yet. Go to Ezekiel 31 and 7, please. Let's read.
Ezekiel chapter 31 and verse 7. Thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters. The cedars in the garden of God could not hide him.
So he was taller than everyone else, even though he hid himself there. In other words, his glory was more brighter than everyone else. Read.
The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of Yah was like unto him in his beauty.
All right, what verse did you go up to?
Verse 8.
Go ahead.
Verse 9, I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of Yah envied him.
Envied him. That's why they plotted to try and take the Fertile Crescent because they envied him. And one particular group did it. Canaan. We know them as Canaan today. All right, from here, let's go to Mark chapter 8 and 22. Let's just prove about the philosophies of the leaves this for a quick minute, all right? Let's go, Mark 8 and 22.
Mark chapter 8, verse 22. And he cometh to Bethesda, and they bring a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes, and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. And he looked. Sir?
Reason.
And he looked up and said, I see men as trees.
I see what?
I see men as trees.
I see men as trees. So we're seeing there that trees represent men. Read.
Walking. After that, he put his hands again upon his eyes, and made him look up. And he was restored, and saw every man clearly.
Because the trees produce leaves, fruit, that are equal to doctrine and philosophies. Jeremiah 2 and 21, please. Jeremiah 2 and 21, real quick. Let's read.
Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 21. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine.
I've done what?
Planted thee a noble vine.
Read.
Holy a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me?
You see that? You've turned into what?
The degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me.
Unto me. Or read on.
For though thou wash thee with nitre, and take thee much soap, yet thine iniquity is marked before me, saith the Most High Yah.
Right. So you're stained, in other words. From there, go to Daniel 4 and 10. Good, let's read.
Daniel chapter 4, verse 10. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth.
He did what?
Beheld a tree in the midst of the earth.
Read.
And the height thereof was great.
Read.
The tree grew, and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth.
Jump to verse 20.
Verse 20. The tree that thou sawest which grew, and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much. In it was meat for all.
Meat for what?
Meat for all.
Well, jump to 22.
Verse 22, it is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown, and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth.
All right. So from here, let's jump to, because you see now he used Nebuchadnezzar, that was his servant, and he made him a great tree. So go back to Jeremiah 42. Jeremiah 42. And let's read 42 and 6.
Jeremiah chapter 42 and verse 6. Whether it be good or whether it be evil.
Whether it be what?
Whether it be good or whether it be evil.
Read.
We will obey the voice of the Most High our Yah.
Right, so that verse, that was one that I was looking for. That verse ties into Genesis chapter 3 and 8. So hold that for me. Run back to Genesis 3 and 8. Read that, then come back and read this again.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Most High Yah walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Most High Yah amongst the trees of the garden.
Amongst the trees of the garden. So hid themselves among the other nations. Covered themselves with their philosophies. Go back and read Jeremiah.
Jeremiah chapter 42 and verse 6. Whether it be good or whether it be evil, we will obey the voice of the Most High our Yah, to whom we send thee, that it may be well with us.
That it may be what?
Well with us when we obey the voice of the Most High our God.
When we obey the voice of our Most High God. See that? So that's the precept that ties into that. Interesting. All right, from here, we'll just run to Psalms 52 and 8, and we're going to start to wind this down. Let's read.
Psalms chapter 52 and verse 8. But I am like a green olive tree in the house of Yah. I trust in the mercy of Yah forever and ever.
Oh, that's good. So we are green olive trees in the house of the Most High, and we must continually trust in Him, and that therefore we will continue to be fruitful forever and ever. All right. I still want to tie in a few more things to Genesis chapter 3 and 8. Let's go to 1 Chronicles chapter 12 and 32. You got that? Good. Let's read.
1 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 32. And the children of Israel, the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times.
Right. Now the reason why I wanted to hit that, because remember what I said to you earlier on, that there is what we call horoscope and all of those things. The world calls it horoscope, but astrology, horoscope, we mustn't have any dealings. But astrology, it has been given to us as a people so we can understand the heavens. We should be able to look up to the heavens and know what is going to happen next. Because in the kingdom, you're not going to have a Bible. The word is going to be put into your minds and into your heart. So you'll be able to speak. Now, to understand what's going to happen next, remember what I said, things like lightning and thunder and all, those are things that will speak to us. When we hear them, we'll stop and we'll hear it, and we will know what the Most High is saying. It won't make sense to the other nations, but to us, we'll hear it and we'll know. In the thundering, it will speak a language to us. Are you with me? Or are we going a little bit too far for you today, huh? So it will speak to us, and this will be only to us, not to the nations. And then it is our job to disseminate it to the rest of the nations, because everything that they get will always come from us, the lead nations. Making sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So in understanding that, go back and read the verse again, if you please, sir.
1 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do.
See, know what Israel ought to do, the times, whatever they see. Go ahead.
The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment.
At their command. Now, from here, go to Matthew 2 and 2, real quick. We're just going to touch that. Matthew 2 and 2. All right, let's go.
Matthew chapter 2 and verse 2, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east.
See that? They saw the star in the east, and by the way, the star was not a real star. Got that? The star was a chariot that looked like a star, because the star continued to burn brightly over a year, and then it removed itself. Now, star planetary systems can't remove themselves out of the way, right?
That's right.
Because they're fixed. According to the scripture, they're fixed. The Bible says they're set. So then, for this thing to move, it was a chariot that was being used as a sign for them to follow. Read what you've just read, sir. Read it again.
Saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him.
See that? So they were following the sign. From there, if you please, did you read 2 or did you go to 3?
Just 2.
Read 3 for me, please.
Verse 3, When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
And all Jerusalem with him. Because he could not understand, this Edomite couldn't understand the signs. It's not given to him. All right? I know you're laughing, okay. Numbers 24, please. And 16. 24 and 16. Let's read.
Numbers chapter 24 and verse 16. He hath said, which heard the words of Yah, and knew the knowledge of the Most High.
See that? Knew the knowledge of the Most High. Read on, sir.
Which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open.
Having his eyes open. Okay? Time won't allow us to stay around. So Deuteronomy 4 and 19. I'm sorry I'm moving you a little bit quickly now. It's just want to back these up with scriptures. Go on. 4 and 19. Deuteronomy 4 and 19. Let's read.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 19. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun, and the moon, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them, and serve them, which the Most High Yah hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven.
Under the whole heaven. See, so we are to see these things. They're there for us as a sign. But nations, this is what the left-hand side does. They take it and they make it into a horoscope. We must see it for what it is, because that's how we built the pyramids for the pharaohs. Because we plotted everything out at night by the stars, and then built everything by day through the position. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, please. 13 and 1. When you have it, just read.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13 and verse 1. Surely vain are all men by nature, who are ignorant of Yah, and could not out of the good things that are seen know him that is. Neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the word master.
Read.
But deemed either fire or wind or the swift air or the circle of the stars or the violent waters or the lights of heaven to be the gods which govern the world.
See that? Because we made them into gods. They're not to be worshipped as gods. They're used as signs for us. So you're going to be able to look to them and read them. That's what the sons of Issachar did. All right? Go, if you please, to Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 19. Let's read.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 19. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Most High Yah hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven.
You see that? So just now get in the precept to make it real clear to you. All right, so the two verses linked together. You got the precept for one, for the other. Got it? All right, so from here, let's go to Isaiah chapter 61 and 3. And then I want to reveal to you who, or the proof of who this scoundrel is. Let's read.
Isaiah chapter 61 and verse 3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness.
There it is, trees of righteousness. Very important verse. Please mark that. Please do mark it. Trees of righteousness. All right? Good. Now that you've got that, we're going to jump down to go back and read Genesis chapter 3 and 14. And let's tie that up. Let's read 14 again, please.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 14. And the Most High Yah said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field.
Now, what you have to understand from this, because we were taught that it was a serpent, and yes, the characteristics of this particular nation is like a serpent. That's what they're like. But we have read this to believe it is a literal serpent. But then, to understand this more clearly, Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 6. Now let's bring this home. Isaiah chapter 30 and 6. Let's read.
Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 6. The burden of the beast of the south into the land of trouble and anguish, from whence come the young and old lion, the viper and the fiery flying serpent. They will carry their riches upon the shoulders of young asses, and their treasures upon the bunches of camels. Upon the bunches of camels, to a people that shall not profit them.
For people that shall not profit them. From here, the precept to this brings us to Isaiah 65 and 21. Let's read.
Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 21. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them.
Continue.
They shall not build, and another inhabit. They shall not plant, and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands.
So we're going to enjoy everything that will come to us. Read on.
They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Most High.
Read.
And their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together.
The wolf and the what?
The lamb shall feed together.
Read.
And the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat.
And dust shall be what?
Dust shall be the serpent's meat.
So this serpent is going to continually eat dust in the millennial age. This particular group of people will never have a justification of blessing. Never. There's only two in the scriptures that fall into this category. One of them is Esau, Edom. But Edom is going to be wiped out. So this is another group that the scriptures are speaking about. Why? Because this group here, Edom, we know, took his position with Cain and then remanifested himself again in Genesis 25 and 25. But here, this particular group, they existed on the borders outside of the Fertile Crescent, but envied what the Most High gave to us and wanted it. That's why you'll understand why the Most High said, now that you children of Israel, I want you to go and take that land. Now you think, and you hear the political people say, oh, well, they went and took someone else's land. No, because from the very beginning of time, the land was given to us. But we lost it because we were disobedient and we fell out of the precepts and laws. And then he allowed the other nations who envied and conned us out of it to walk in. Now later on now, when he gets Moses together and he gets his lieutenant Joshua together, they then go in to take the land back. But see, everybody forgets about the beginning. And all they see is the Exodus and think that's where it all happened. It happened before. That's why when you hear people make all the noise, they're making all the noise having no understanding of the history. We're taking what was ours in the beginning. But we fell out of grace, and that's why the Most High allowed them to take it. But now it's time to take it and own it. All right, so let's read 25, sir, again.
Verse 25, the wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat.
Read.
They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Most High.
So he's saying that this particular serpent, they're going to be toothless. They will only eat dust. They cannot hurt the government, where it says the holy mountain, cannot hurt the government of the Most High. What we will bask in and rule in, they will have no power to come and betray us. Because that's what they did. Because what they did, they were the ones who sold us out and said, there they are, those are the people, and they took them as slaves. All right, let's go to Jeremiah 4 and 7, quick. If we have time, I'll give you a little snippet of something, but let's see what we do. Okay. All right, go.
Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 7. The lion has come up from his thicket.
The what?
The lion has come up from his thicket.
Read.
And the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way.
And the destroyer of the Gentile is on his way. Glory be to his most high name. Go ahead.
He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate.
To make what?
To make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste without an inhabitant.
And he has to do that because he has to cover up everything. So now the place where they're worshiping say, this is Jerusalem. It's not Jerusalem. Jerusalem is south of there. But he's not going to let them desecrate it, so he lets them believe that they're in the right place. Because the place that he has, the real place, is south of there. And so when we go there now, it's untouched because it, as the officer read the latter clause again, he is gone.
And he is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste without an inhabitant.
Without an inhabitant. So nobody can inhabit it because they don't even know what they've got. We know. We just read it here. Did we not just read it? Zechariah chapter 14 and 21 real quick. (14 and 21), let's read.
Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 21. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Most High of hosts, and all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and see it therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Most High of hosts.
Sorry, read that again.
And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Most High of hosts.
You see that? So the Canaanite in that day will not be able to go into the place of the Most High and worship. And in that day there shall be no more Canaanites in the house of the Lord of hosts. That's heavy, isn't it? All right. From there, quickly go to Ezekiel chapter 47 and 6. Let's read.
Ezekiel chapter 47 and verse 6. And he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen this? Then he brought me and caused me to return to the brink of the river. Now when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other.
Trees meaning people. Read.
Then said he unto me, These waters issue out toward the east country.
East country, Jerusalem. Read.
And go down into the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed.
The waters shall be healed. The people shall be healed. Revelation chapter 17 and 5 and 15, sir.
17 and 15?
Revelation 17, 15.
Revelation chapter 17 and verse 15. And he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, and the multitudes, and nations, and tongues.
See that? Read.
And the 10 horns which...
All right, now stop there. Jump to 22 and chapter 22 and 2.
Revelation chapter 22 and verse 2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
All right, jump back to Ezekiel chapter 47. Begin at 7 and 8.
Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 7.
In fact, begin at 6. Let's have the full Monty. Let's go to 6 through to 8.
Verse 6. And he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen this? Then he brought me, and caused me to return to the brink of the river. Now when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other. Then said he unto me, These waters issue out toward the east country, and go down into the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed.
The waters shall be healed. You see, that ties in with what you just read in the book of Revelation 17 and 15, and Revelations 22 and 2. Got that? From there, let's go to Ezra. No, got time, won't allow. Let's allow it. Let's go to Ezekiel Ezekiel 47, stay there, 47. Ezekiel 47, let's read verse 9.
Verse 9, and it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the river shall come, shall live, and there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither.
So a great multitude of fish, meaning people, read.
For they shall be healed, and everything shall live, whether the river cometh.
This is after the 1,000 years. After the 1,000 years, then the nations will be healed, not before. Because during that 1,000 years, they're going to have hard labor. All right, so anyone who has a problem with that, again, take it up with the Most High. I'm looking forward to that. All right, read on.
Verse 10, and it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from Engedi,
yeah.
even unto Enalim. They shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds.
All right. When it says their kinds, that's separation, meaning that all of the fishes will live, all of the fish shall live in their own section. There'll be no, I'm going to go marry that one, and you're going to go marry this one. No. All those nations are going to be with their own kind. They're never going to spill their seed into other nations. It makes it very clear. Their fish shall be according to their kinds. Read.
As the fish of the great sea, exceeding many.
Read on now. Now this is the clincher for Canaan. Read.
But the miry places thereof and the marshes thereof shall not be healed, they shall be given to salt.
So he said that the other places are going to have clear water, fresh water. But this particular race who started all of this mess because of their envy, because of their probing on the left side, they are going to live, it says, but in the miry places thereof, and in the marshes, and marshland. What do you see in marshland, by the way? Historically, today, what do you find in marshland? Serpents, snakes, the biggest anacondas are out there. So this particular race of people, they're the snake that we read about. We read it, and it made it very clear that it was Canaan. You read that, right? And so, read verse 11 for me, sir.
But the miry places thereof and the marshes thereof shall not be healed, they shall be given to salt.
They will be given to salt. Whilst we're out there, may as well read 12. Let's go ahead.
And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine.
For medicine, teach it. Go to Genesis chapter 3 and 15. Let's read that.
Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman.
Between who?
Between thee and the woman.
Read.
And between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.
And that's why that nation has always had a hatred for Judah from that time right the way up and even till this very day. Ham does not like Shem. And our sisters are losing their mind and let's keep quiet. All right. Just as an anecdote, let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 7 and 12. I want to prove that, you know, who Yahushua was in the beginning and so on, and then we'll end there. It's just 4 scriptures, 5 scriptures, and we're done. 2 Samuel 7. Read verse 12 through to 17. Let's read.
2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 12.
I'm sorry, 2 Samuel chapter 7. Yes, that's correct. Yes, sir.
And when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will.
I'm sorry, it's established is what? This is speaking about. Who's it speaking about? Right. So it says, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom forever. Is his throne forever?
Yes.
No,
Not Solomon.
not Solomon's. Because, and the reason why it's not is because Solomon made some errors. Read on.
He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son.
Hold it. It said, I will be his father, and he shall be my son. Who's that speaking of? All right. Let's read it again, please.
I will be his father, and he shall be my son.
And he shall be my son. He's speaking futuristically. So it makes it very clear that this is his son who's going to sit on this position. Read.
If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men.
Now remember, Solomon did commit iniquity, but was he beaten with the rod of men? I mean, who's going to even get near that king to beat him? It's never going to happen. But who was beaten? Yahushua was. Read.
And with the stripes of the children of men.
See, that's with the stripes of the children of men. Read on.
But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. According to all these words, and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David.
Speak unto David. So from here, let's go to Hebrews chapter 1 and 5. Now, some people have trouble with what you're going to read here. Let's read.
Hebrews chapter 1 and verse 5. For unto which of these angels said he at any time, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee? And again,
So what does that say? Read it again, read it slowly, please.
for unto which of these angels said he at any time,
So which angels did he say at any time,
Thou art my son,
Thou art my son,
this day have I begotten thee?
this day have I begotten thee? Read.
And again, I will be to him a father.
Again, so you see that ties back in with what you read in 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 14. And I will be his father, and he shall be my son. Read, sir.
I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. And again, when he bringeth in the first begotten into the world, he said, And let all the angels of Yah worship him.
See, so all of the angels of Yah worshipped him that he brought into the world by the seed of men. And in fact, the Bible says, back in 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 12, and when the days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep, die, in other words, with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, out of your body, and I will establish his kingdom. So I don't know how people find it so hard to believe when the words are there, making it very, very plain. What verse were you at, sir?
Verse 7.
Verse 7. All right, let's stop there. Let's go to Luke chapter 1 and 13, please. Let's
Luke chapter 1 and verse 30. And the angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with Yah. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Yahushua. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord Yah shall give unto him the throne of his father David.
Of his father David. Go on.
And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end.
Read.
Then said Mary unto the angel, How shall this be, seeing I know not a man?
No, not a man. At that time, she had not yet had sex. Go from there to Psalms 22 and 15, please. We'll come back to Hebrews in a moment. Psalms 22 and 15. Let's read.
Psalms chapter 22 and verse 15. My strength is dried up like a potsherd.
Now, watch it. Here we find David is speaking futuristically. Some people would read this to think it is David, but it is not David. Read.
And my tongue cleaveth to my jaws, and thou hast brought me into the dust of death.
Into the dust of death. Read on.
For dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me, they pierced my hands and my feet.
Now, that didn't happen to David, yet he says, my feet. You see that? My hands, my feet. That's why I say people read this and don't get it. He's speaking about the seed that will come from his bowels that will go through this. He was having a vision of that future. Since we're there, let's read the next verse.
I may tell all my bones, they look and stare upon me.
Read.
They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture.
My vesture. All right, so we see that he's speaking about he had a vision of his seed, his future seed. From there, go to Hebrews chapter 7 and 27. Let's read.
Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 27. Who needeth not daily, as though high priest, to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the people's.
All right, so what you're reading there confuses many. Because they'll say, hold on, you telling me that Jesus sinned? Well, let's read it again. Read it again.
Who needeth not daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins.
First for his own sins. Now, let's understand. Yahushua committed no sin. He broke no law. But in his previous life, when he was Solomon, he messed up royally. Now, we've already proven that, although I may have to go back there again to prove it, but Yahushua was Adam in the beginning, because he's the first fruit. He is also Melchizedek. He's also Solomon. And now he's also Yahushua. But so when he speaks about first for his own sins, because it says as a high priest to offer up sacrifice first for his own sins and then for the people's. Read, sir.
For this he did once when he offered up himself.
When he offered up himself. I just want to quickly check Hebrews 2:14. Yes, sir. Read that, if you please.
Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 14. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same.
Took part of what?
Took part of the same.
Took part of the same.
That through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is the devil.
That is the devil. All right. 1 John 2 and 2, please.
1 John chapter 2 and verse 2. And he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world.
For the whole world, read.
And hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments.
If we do what?
If we keep his commandments.
If we keep his commandments. From here, go to Colossians chapter 1 and 12. Let's read.
Colossians chapter 1 and verse 12. Giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light,
Read.
who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son,
Read.
in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins,
Read.
who is the image of the invisible Yah, the firstborn of every creature.
I'm sorry, he's the what?
Who is the image of the invisible Yah, the firstborn of every creature.
So it's the firstborn of every creature. So if he's the firstborn of every creature, then he had to be on par from day one. Read verse 16.
For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him.
Read.
And he is before all things, and by him all things consist.
Read.
And he is the head of the body.
He is the head of the body. Read.
The church.
Read.
Who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence.
So the preeminence means that he was first at everything. He was the first man chosen by the Most High. He was the first to die and come up from the grave. He's the first to experience all of the transitions of the life. He was the one to do all that. He did all of that. Okay? So then, read on.
Verse 19. For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell, and having made peace through the blood of his cross.
All right, we can stop right there. Last scripture. That's the last scripture. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and 45.
1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 45. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living soul.
Read.
The last Adam was made a quickening spirit.
Made a quickening spirit. Do you get that? All right? I think you need to put meat on that. Go to Luke 3 and 38 and we'll stop there. 3 and 38, yes.
Luke chapter 3 and verse 38. Which was the son of Enos.
Read it slowly, read.
Which was the son of Enos.
This is the son of Enos, read.
Which was the son of Seth.
Which was the son of who?
Seth.
Go on.
Which was the son of Adam.
Which was the son of Adam. Now, does that not make it plain for you, ladies and gentlemen, or do I have to read it again, sir? Luke chapter 3 and verse 38. Let's read it again.
Which was the son of Enos.
Which was the son of Enos, read.
Which was the son of Seth.
The son of Seth, read.
Which was the son of Adam.
Which was the son of Adam. It's telling you there. So read it again. I think it's flying over some people's head. Let's read one more time, please.
Which was the son of Enos. Which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of Yah.
Which was the son of Yah. It's telling you there, right there. All right, so that's it. So we've dealt with who was in the garden. We dealt with who was the serpent. We dealt with what was this tree of knowledge and evil. We dealt with all of that. We dealt with establishing the trees and the waters and what do they mean? They mean people. We dealt with Yahushua, who was Adam and Solomon and so on. So we've covered a lot today, so I hope that your minds are still together, intact. All right, any questions before we close today? Any questions from anyone? All right. Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
I thought that Yahweh Shai also was Isaac.
Isaac? Yes, ma'am. Because he's, I mean, today, if I had gone through and showed you how many times he has got, I think it would take a bit of time. But I've just shown you just key individuals, which is Adam, Solomon, and come through. Otherwise, I would have introduced Melchizedek into the equation. I mentioned him. And there's another individual that many people would be surprised that he came back as well. But again, I think you've handled enough information today.
And so Hamites.
The Hamites?
The Hamites
Yes.
are the ones you're saying that will always dwell in the marsh. And
You see, there is this impression that we have that those Hamites over in Africa right now, they're all, struggling and poor. That's garbage. If you go to Africa and you go to the different parts, some of them live like kings. They live extraordinarily well. You get America's version. You get the propaganda of America to see the people in their mud huts and all of that. That's the part that they tend to always show. They don't show the large cities and those who have multiple cars and jets and planes, and these are all Hamites. I mean, living and operating just like Trump, and some of them even more.
so that would be the 1% of the Africans who are living in wealth, just as we have the Caucasian race here, that's that 1%, the rich, or 1 to 3%, however many it is has all the means, and then all.
Yes, exactly. But the same way that you see here that there's a percentile here who live well. They are at the top of the pyramid, and then there are those who come down a little, and so on until you come down to the base. And those at the base normally are the biggest spread in terms of the wants, or the have-nots, I should say. Mm-hmm. So it's the same there as it is here. But America never teaches the rest of the world that there are other countries like us. You've never seen them show a documentary showing China. China is the next major economy in the world. They never show that. China's economy is at the verge of eclipsing America. But they'll never show that because they have to show themselves always as being the biggest and the best. That's why the maps of America, they always show Central America as being big, and it isn't. It's not that big. They show it like it's big as Africa. It's not. It's small. They show it big as South America. What? South America is way bigger than Central America. But this is the lie. This country is a lie. It's the dog lie. And it's fooled everyone into believing that it is something that it isn't. But back to the Hamites. The Hamites are the ones who are going to live in the marshlands. They're going to eat dust for the rest of, and that's for eternity. And it's never going to change. They will never be invited to the house of them, into the kingdom. They'll never come into the kingdom city. Now the other nations we will be ministering to, they will eventually come and worship at the Most High's feet because they'll be following the laws and the precepts and so on. This is after the millennial reign, of course.
When you say the other nations, you mean more?
Remember, there are basically 18 nations of the world, and those nations consist of different groups of people who are running their own territory, so to speak. Those individuals will have to be taught our laws, our judgments, and our commandments. They have to be taught that. They themselves will then go and teach their own people. Then there will be Levites who will be scattered among them to ensure that they're following all of those things. And then we, if anyone's out of line, we will be brought to wipe them off the face of the earth. Because there's not going to be, it's none of this thing, oh, since you're not pouring law, we're going to put you in jail. There's no jail. In the millennial reign, there's no such thing as a jail. You mess up, you die. So the jails today is because it's a business. But if they follow the things of old, you mess up, you're gone. You go to some of the Saudi countries, if you see people with only one hand. Why? Because they stole and they chopped that hand off. So it's clearly seen. The judgments are clearly seen. All right. Any other questions from anyone? All right. Go ahead.
Where will our land be?
Where will our land be? In Israel. What do you mean by that? Where will our land be?
I don't know. I think I got the impression that it will not be Israel, it will be, but Israel is in Africa. Okay, I got it.
Because see, the people who right now are worshiping, calling that Jerusalem, they are not in the right place even. They're in a place that the Most High, we just read where it said that the land where we will be, He has made it desolate. He's covered it up, so no one will know where that is. Because He doesn't want them putting one foot there.
Right.
And so when we get there, our land would have been covered up by dust and everything. And it's on that foundation that they're going to come, and they will be building everything according to the vision of Yahushua. They'll be building the palace city. They'll be building the walls. The walls that they have now, those walls have nothing to do with us. Everybody's saying that they don't have it. You check the history, it has nothing to do with us. Our walls and everything was torn down. Our cities are buried under tons of earth. That's why when it said that they came into Jerusalem and they leveled it to the ground, the Psalm says, even unto the ground, meaning nothing is left. Anything else? All right. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you watching online, thank you for tuning in, logging in and watching us today. We hope that if you ever are able, please do come along and worship with us. We are at the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel here in Sugar Land. The information you can always get by
It's on the description under the,
I'm sorry?
it's under the description of the video.
I beg your pardon?
The address is under the description of the video.
And the address, thank you so much. The address of where we are located at this particular time is under the description of the video that you watched today. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I don't remember anything else.
The recording on Thursday nights.
Yes, the recording on Thursday night, ladies and gentlemen, let me just pull that information for you. All right, the conference teaching that we had on Thursday night, and for any of you wishing to tune into that, you may dial in and participate live. The number is 641-715-0632. Again, that is 641-715-0632. The access code to come in is 920054. Again, that is 920054. We have weekly Bible studies on this beginning at 7 o'clock through to 8:30. So you're welcome to come, invite a friend, and join us. At this time, we bid you shalom and Thawadah. Thank you for joining in with us, and we look forward to speaking with you again. Shalom.